Hello everyone, this is Ray Space, and welcome back to Realism Overhaul Sandbox and Kerbal Space Program 1.12. The space plane that you see right here is the Ministar. It is meant to be a second stage. It is derived from the Venture Star system, which was a larger single stage to orbit system, but the Ministar is not a single stage to orbit. It is meant to ride on the back of a carrier plane. That carrier plane would land in the Bahamas, and then this continues to orbit, leaves its payload in orbit, and then comes back down. It's rather complicated, but of course, what's the point of doing things in Kerbal Space Program if they aren't a little bit complicated? Otherwise, we just do in real life. So, anyway, we have this Ministar here, but in working on my timeline, which is meant to be a future history, mapping out all future events that would bridge the gap between technology today and warp drives, basically, eventually, I decided that the Ministar would be probably developed before its carrier plane. The carrier plane is much more complicated because it has to withstand heavy loads coming back down. It's going very fast coming back down, and that's a lot of stress on the vehicle. And it also has to have a runway in the Bahamas to land at. The runway currently does not exist in the location that I have it. So things would have to be built. It's a much larger thing. And so in the timeline, I've got the Ministar being tested on the Kasei rocket, which will be already developed and is much simpler. It is also a reusable first stage. This setup does not have the efficiency of the Orion carrier plane, or really what I'm calling now the Ministar carrier plane, plus the Ministar, because, you know, we have to reserve a little bit more fuel. It's not like landing forward, but also it's just a little bit more imbalanced than that other setup is. Still, it shouldn't be too bad. Right now I've got 40 tons of payload inside the fairing. It's just a avgas tank right here, so we can right click it, 40 tons. And now the capacity of the Ministar usually is 45 tons, so we're cutting that down a little bit, and I'm gonna see if this works. Obviously we've got a balance problem. And just like with the carrier plane, I'm going to have to shut off engines on the Kasei rocket in order to ensure the balance. This video is just testing whether this can work at all. After that, we'll talk about the recovery of the first stage, which is a whole other business. We've got the grid fins and all, and I'll try to reserve the propellant during this test. But it's going to be ending further along because the Ministar is lighter than the normal second stage for the Kasei rocket. So we'll get further out and we'll see about that. Is it a good idea to have this set up? Well, only if you want a recoverable second stage. Otherwise, the normal Kasei rocket with its normal second stage, which is not reusable, gets much better payload capacity. It's not 40 tons, it's more like 85 to 90 tons depending on the recovery. So let's just say 85 tons. This is also less efficient because it has this nose cone here. That's another 4.367 tons plus that little bit there. I initially tried to use this procedural nose cone as the full nose cone instead of having this empty procedural tank here. But if you actually size this to the right size, so that's 8.4, that's the right diameter, and let's say it's like that, it's 17 tons. If I can get an empty tank that's only 4 tons, why do I want a nose cone that's 17 tons? So, nope. I decided that 17 tons was just right out. These nose cones are too much. So we just have it like that so that it closes the end of it. Okay. Well, that's the setup. Let's launch it from Tampico per usual and see whether we can make orbit with the 40 tons. So here's our little shuttle. I could make a different kind of shuttle on the side of the Kasei rocket if we wanted to go there, but for now we'll try this. This does invite other options, of course, but I'll just have Smart ASS control because probably having SAS control it initially is a bad idea. It'll probably flop a bit. So I'll execute that, throttle up, and ignition, and launch. Alright, we have a bit of a sidestep as expected. That's using half of its pitch authority, but we're good. We're past the speed of sound. So maximum dynamic pressure, you know how important that is for this sort of thing. And we'll be keeping a close eye on that pitch authority to figure out when to shut off the engines. I've got the further two shutting off first. Oh, sorry, these two. Further two shutting off first, and then the center one, and then the other two. Obviously, I couldn't use a KOS script or MechJeb ascent guidance because I don't know when to shut off the engines yet. Gotta figure that out first. So as we get to about 3 Gs, maybe there's a good time. Let's say 50 kilometers. I shut the outer ones. There's a bit of a jerk, but then our pitch gets restored. So that's good. Now we have 3 engines on. Now, the reason the Ministar isn't moved further up is because there is a larger payload fairing option. So I decided to put it the way it is right now. That's a pretty high apoapsis. Let me flatten out. Oh, but it's sort of max there. Let me shut off that one. Okay. Didn't go out of control or anything, but it's pretty high up for... Oh, we need to shut off the engines to have the booster recovery. Okay, separation and ignition. Well, delta V wise, we should have enough right now. Seems like the payload's a little bit misplaced. Oh, or the engines might need to be shifted. We'll have to watch out for that. Pretty high up, so I think we can stay flat. Remember, we're going to 28.6 degrees because that would line up with the moon or the rest of the solar system. Assuming you timed it right. In this case, we didn't time it quite right. We're maybe a little bit off on our timing to really line up, but delta V wise, it would be the same. Oh, I should separate off the fairings. Off they go. That'll give us a little bit more delta V. But this still has to retain enough delta V to return, so that's another problem. Okay, so we are in orbit 284 by 263, and we've got 286 meters per second left. So we'll get a little bit higher, I think, and we'll use the OMS engines here to do that. We wouldn't be using the main engines anymore. And we should start fuel cell 2. Alright, we will wait until apoapsis so I can circularize and then dump the payload. Okay, 1.5 hours as I usually like it. And decouple. So the payload will have gone off and then we will back away. The mount gets dumped after we do the deorbit burn. Should I do the whole re-entry thing? I mean, I think we have enough. I mean, we have 589 meters per second. That definitely should be enough for this to come back down safely. So I'm confident about that. But okay, fine. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to dump it off and then restore our altitude, because I'm going to use a KOS script to do the re-entry, and I won't be able to interrupt it to get rid of the mount otherwise. So more complicated than it needs to be, and using more fuel than we needed to, but here we are. The OMS engines are basically 2 BE7s, by the way. 40 kilonewtons each. Okay, that would definitely deorbit the mount. Off it goes. Okay, back to a 1.5 hour orbit, and I'll wait until we are back in line with 10 pico. and we'll see. It's all up to the script now. But Delta V wise, we seem to be alright for 40 tons, is what I've discovered. So that setup works. It's tenuous because of the balance, and we have to shut off the engines and all that, but we can do that. We actually ended up at a higher inclination than I wanted, though. Well, we are in the atmosphere and on track so far. Well, Venus is right there in front of us. It's practically, well, we see some scattered stars there, but Venus is very prominent there. Sun should rise soon, right? At some point. I just realized that I think I ditched atmospheric autopilot in an attempt to troubleshoot something, and I don't think atmospheric autopilot was the problem, but I didn't put it back in. So I'm gonna be relying on SAS, which is not quite as good. I really should put atmospheric autopilot back in here. But then it might, the thing I was trying to troubleshoot was the Kasei rocket return, and maybe it would still cause problems. And if I can land it without atmospheric autopilot, maybe I'll just keep it out. Well, you have Firefly effects now. Mostly on track here. Taking a look at the map, we're approaching like that. And we're trying to land there. Well, not at the launch pad, but at the runway there. Well, we're approaching the coast here. I'm still pretty high up. We're in line. We're at the boundary of my special terrain. I'm gonna let it pitch down first before I try and take control. But yeah, we're off. We overshot. Oh, there's the runway. We're right over the runway. That much is fine, but it's not helpful to be overshooting. Okay, well, that's probably good enough for me. Let me try and do something with it. Oh no, maybe it's literally... I think I need atmospheric autopilot for it. It's too wobbly. I need a stiffer fly-by-wire than this. It's too potentially flippy. Yeah. I'm losing a lot of speed like that. I would be able to make a nice turn if I had atmospheric autopilot, but no. Alright, well, we could have made it, but yeah. I've definitely done it before with atmospheric autopilot, even with it overshooting like that, but now we've lost too much speed and we certainly can't. So, oh well. Yeah, SAS is not good for this part. Alright, anyway, that flaw aside, we can launch the Ministar on the Kasei rocket. It's not the greatest thing to do because the payload capacity is limited, but as far as testing the Ministar before the carrier plane becomes available in the timeline, it is doable. So I'll leave it there for now. With that, as this falls like a leaf, I'll say thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do press like. If you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them in the comment section below, and I'll see you next time.